House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes telling President Trump that his transition team's communications were intercepted during legal surveillance. The evidence is a bombshell showing that the president may not have been far off on his wiretapping claims. Listen.
I recently confirmed that on numerous occasions, the intelligence community incidentally collected information about U.S. citizens involved in the Trump transition. Details about U.S. persons associated with the incoming administration, details with little or no apparent foreign intelligence value, were widely disseminated in intelligence community reporting.
Would I be wrong in saying that the Obama administration surveilled the Trump transition team?
I would say from all I know, you're at least 99.5% accurate, and probably 100%.
Chairman Nunes also clarified that the reports that he read did not mention Russia at all. Meanwhile, President Trump taking to Twitter this morning. Here's what he is saying about this. Just watch the totally biased and fake news reports of the so-called Russia story on NBC and ABC. Such dishonesty. I want to bring in a member of the House Intelligence Committee. You just saw him, New York Congressman Peter King. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you.
Characterize the situation as you know it.
First of all, what Devin Nunes was saying, and I support him 100% on this, is that this was legitimate surveillance being carried out involving conversations between foreigners. In the course of those conversations, details would come up about people in the Trump transition, about conversations these people had, either with Donald Trump himself or people close to him or people in the transition. Under the law, whenever that information comes up, it has to be what's called masked. It has to be blacked out. Instead, what happened was this information, as far as we can tell right now, was unmasked. It was made known and it was disseminated throughout the intelligence community. There was no intelligence value to this information at all. All this was personal details, where meetings were going to be held, who was going to be going where, who was talking with whom. There was absolutely no reason at all, and it's illegal for that to be unmasked and spread throughout the intelligence community, including the White House. So that's why the surveillance I was talking about is to have this type of information disseminated is really nothing else but surveillance, and there's no legitimate purpose because it's not being done for intelligence purposes, and there's nothing criminal there. This was strictly personal type information that was being used and abused.
Congressman, I don't understand. You have to connect the dots for us here. I don't understand why, as soon as the president said that, he used the word wiretapping. Now we're using the word surveillance. How come so many intelligence people came out and said, no evidence of it? We just don't have the evidence of it. Not at all. If this is obvious and Chairman Nunes has the goods on this, how come nobody else knew it? And how come they were so adamant about this is not true?
Well, what happened was the president did overshoot the mark on this. He should not have said that President Obama ordered him to be wiretapped. He was not wiretapped. And what happened was that there was an abuse there was information legally obtained, which was then abused. And that, to me, is very significant. It doesn't mean that President Obama ordered him to be wiretapped, but it does mean that people in the administration or the intelligence community allowed this information to be made known to others in the White House and in the intelligence community, which is illegal and wrong. Devin Nunes just found out about it very recently, if you recall. At the hearing on Monday, he said, if anyone has information, come forward. And my understanding is that's when Chairman Nunes found out about it.
See, I feel like that is dishonest, Steve Rogers. I mean, there was such pushback to the president's, tweet about wiretapping. Okay, so it's not wiretapping, it's surveillance. But the fact that so many in the intelligence community came out and poo-pooed it, that's dishonest.
Which brings us to this point. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning.
Should not part of this investigation include who gave the order, who actually allowed this information to go out without masking? Because you know and I know that the names of U.S. citizens, corporations, et cetera, have to be protected. So what about that? What about focusing in on who gave the order?
No, that's exactly what Chairman Nunes is saying has to be investigated. Who gave the order, why it was given, was there any pressure brought, and exactly to whom was this disseminated? And that, to me, is a real issue because this is supposed to be so highly secretive. And you're right, if an American citizen's name appears anywhere on one of these wiretaps, the wiretap itself is legal, but if your name appears on it, if you're an American citizen, it has to be masked, it has to be blacked out. No one is ever supposed to know about it unless it involves something important to foreign intelligence. From what we can see, this had nothing to do with foreign intelligence. It was just monitoring day-to-day activities of people in the Trump team and the president-elect himself.
Congressman, two questions. One, with respect to the president's tweet this morning. It's probably in reference to what Representative Schiff said, that he's seen more than circumstantial evidence of collusion between Russia and associates of Trump. So one, how would you respond to that? And then secondly, how would you respond to Senator McCain saying that he thinks there is a need for an independent select committee and it should be taken out of the House?
Well, I would just rely on what General Clapper, who was the Director of National Intelligence under President Obama, he was on 2 weeks ago. He said so far there was absolutely no evidence of any collusion whatsoever. Also, you had Mike Morrell, who was the acting CIA director under President Obama, and he was saying that there's no fire. There's no, not even a campfire. There's not even a spark of a fire as far as where this investigation is going. So listen, if the FBI finds something, fine. But right now, the FBI has been investigating this for more than 8 months. Let them continue their investigation.
Yeah,
but as far
that's right.
But Congressman, no disrespect, you mentioned those two, but you had 2 days ago Comey and the NSA director say there was no wiretap or surveillance of Trump Tower. But then just now you talk about there possibly was surveillance because of what Nunes said, even though we haven't seen anything. So you take one side and not the other. How do you square that circle?
No, I'm not taking one side, not the other. I'm saying that as far as Russia, that's being investigated by the FBI. As far as President Trump, specifically what Comey said was accurate, and maybe he was not aware of this. I don't know. This was we have to find exactly how this was done. And I'm not saying there was surveillance audit of President-elect Trump. What happened was the effect of it was, though, as all this information was being released, this certainly to me was surveillance. Who ordered it? Where did it come from?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's no evidence from President Obama,
just the
though.
select
The
committee?
left really has to be careful on this, Robert,
Right.
because I understand that, the Democrats really want this to be true, that there's some collusion between Donald Trump and the Russians.
Robert,
and there's just no evidence of it. It's just not true.
And Robert, the congressman hit the nail on the head. The former director of intelligence stated there's no Russian connection.
Yeah.
They're pushing a narrative that's
desperate to push this narrative.
I was just asking the same question, that's all.
I want to turn to health care, Robert, and I want to get your take on this. And certainly, Congressman, the Republicans are still not united behind this Obamacare replacement bill. Fox News is reporting that it's unclear if the House is even going to take this vote up tonight on the health care legislation. Are they?
Again, it's going to see how the votes come out. I know, as of now, I don't believe the votes are there, but there are negotiations going on with the president and with certain members of Congress. What the president, though, has to be concerned about is that if he goes too far in one direction, he's going to lose votes on the other side. So this is it's going to get down to the wire.
Congressman, that's what we were chatting about earlier today. If they push too far right with respect to making the Freedom Caucus align with their votes, how does it, put someone such as yourself, who's a little more, I would say, a moderate with respect to voting on something like this?
It would certainly make it. It would certainly raise questions for me, put it that way. Right now, I'm undecided. I understand what the president wants. I understand what the speaker wants. But if it goes any more in the direction of the Freedom Caucus, it's going to be very difficult for someone like me to vote for it.
Wait a second. Are you saying you're undecided right now, Congressman?
I am. I want to find a way to support it.
Why are you undecided?
I'm still, what I'm trying to look at is the exact, again, in New York, we have 800,000 people went under the Medicaid expansion. It's not something I support. The reality is they're on it. And I want to see what the transition is and how many people are going to be affected by it. Now, I think it can work, but if we start going more in the direction of the Freedom Caucus, it's going to make it more difficult.
So do you need to see some change before you vote yes? Are you waiting on a change to take place today before you...
I'm waiting to see how this all plays out. There's so many moving parts here. That's the only reason. Listen, on every other issue I've been involved in, I always make a pretty quick and firm commitment.
Yeah, Jagan McDowell, jump in here. Yeah, go ahead. Here's
Congressman, the Freedom Caucus seems to be focused on getting rid of these coverage mandates, the 10 items that insurance must cover. How would that impact the Medicaid funding, if at all?
No, I'm saying you have Medicaid on one side and you have this as being another issue in there. How is that going to impact? I want to see what they mean by that. I want to see exactly what the impact is going to have. Because, for instance, we have a large opioid issue in my district. And we have a large rate of breast cancer. We can go through these issues. I want to see what this actually means. That's all.
Yeah.
So Medicaid is an issue now, which I'm working through. But on this is an added issue being brought in.
If you do not get this done, Congressman, are you going to take responsibility for being part of the problem, for busting up the entire agenda when markets sell off?
That's why we're in the situation we're in right now. I want to find a way to make it work. What I'm saying is if you go too far, then you're going to end up losing, I think, a significant number of votes of people who want to vote yes, but they'll have a hard time doing it if more changes are made.
And what about Paul Ryan's legacy? If you guys don't get this over the finish line, is Paul Ryan out?
No, absolutely not. Paul is a great speaker, and he has to remain a speaker. Nobody can do the job that Paul Ryan is doing. Remember, you have 35, 40 people in the Freedom Caucus trying to pull us. He does have the overwhelming majority of Republicans supporting him. There's no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead, Robert.
I think one of the representatives, maybe from Staten Island, has decided he's a no vote. Do you know where he stands now?
Dan Donovan is a no, and Dan can speak for himself on this. One of the main reasons is there was language put in the bill which would perhaps help 57 counties in New York, but it would have a damaging effect on New York City. He's the only Republican in New York City, and this definitely hurts hospitals in his district and people in his district. It's it's how the Medicaid funding is made. In New York right now,
I see.
Local governments pay about 13%. That would be removed everywhere but New York City. So New York City would really be hurt by that.
So if that language is changed, Congressman, do you get to a yes vote?
That doesn't affect me. That affects Dan Donovan.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yes.
Staten Island. Yeah, you're talking about Staten Island. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thanks so much for
Maria,
weighing
thank
in.
you.
This is so
Appreciate it.
important, and we'll be watching the developments. Thank you, sir. Congressman Peter King there. We'll be